And
Hello.
we're live. Gentlemen, Merry Christmas. We are on the throes of a beautiful holiday. How are we feeling?
Feeling great.
Yeah? What are we doing for Christmas traditions? What's on the docket for the boys?
I mean, I don't really. The only tradition I really have is to open one present on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
That's the only one.
Okay. I have like a whole thing where my family gets like Christmas Eve was always the big Christmas day. That was like our Christmas day. Cuz that was when we got gifts from the rest of the family. Everybody would get together, we would jam out and then
Jam out, play
jam
music,
out. Exactly.
playing
And-
the blues.
Keep it loose. Keep it rocking on. And we would, we'd have fun. I always looked forward to Christmas Eve the most. I always felt like when Christmas Day happened, it was like kind of already over. Christmas Eve was so special. But have family that comes into town, and we basically hang out all week between Christmas Day and New Year's Day, and it's just awesome time. I look forward to it every year. It's like the best. It's like work slows down a little bit. Get time with the family. There's events every single day. Stuff's going on. Just feels really like a lot of fun. I love it.
I always take Christmas to New Year's off every year, and only thing that we've been kind of doing like as a tradition lately is every Christmas to New Year's, my wife and her family are all big like Harry Potter fans.
Ooh.
So we watch every movie like in that time.
Oh,
I usually fall asleep, but
that's a lot of movie to
yeah.
get through.
But regardless, I don't fall asleep because I'm bored. I like sleeping, and I don't get much chance to do it unless I'm on vacation. So
Damn, that is a lot of movie to get through.
yeah, well, we don't do it one day. I mean,
Oh,
do like two a day. That's why it takes all week. So
I thought it was all one day.
That's what I thought. I thought you just hammered it through.
Start at 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
so like 15 hours. Something
It's like
crazy.
a Lord of the Rings marathon.
Sit
there.
back down.
You can't leave yet. You can't handle the truth. Yeah, that sounds like fun. I like that. I like the little traditions. You're off again this year?
Yep.
That's fun. What
Sure
about
am.
you? You working through?
I'm off on Christmas, and I believe I get out early Christmas Eve,
Oh, so you have to actually work Christmas Eve.
or I might have it off.
Oh, okay. That's
I have to
you must be
recheck.
really invested.
Yeah, I'm.
When's Christmas
so
Eve?
invested.
Sunday.
See,
Yes.
Sunday.
Yeah, Christmas Day is
I-
Monday.
then
I'm always
yeah, I
off
have it
Sunday
off.
anyways. So
I have Sunday off.
Good man.
good man.
Good man.
He has no idea what he's talking about. He has no idea what day of the week it is. What does he do with his hands?
Today is Wednesday, right?
Today is the big day.
Today is the day. We're announcing it.
Today is the day that we host a podcast that is also a live stream, primarily a live stream that we so thoroughly enjoy.
Oh yeah.
Well, so let's jump into some of our topics today. There was obviously the enormous Insomniac leaks that
Yeah.
occurred. Why don't, since both of you guys are such Spider-Man simps, why don't you talk about it?
So
What
there
are you
was.
excited for? What are your thoughts on the attack itself?
Yeah, I think. So to give context, 1.6 terabytes of data was taken from Insomniac Games.
So like
By-
one 8K video that taken with an iPhone, basically.
But all files. But they a hacker group took it, held it for ransom, and I guess Insomniac said no, like
Good for
fuck
them.
you.
Good
And
for
then the hacker group released it. They held up on their threat,
Yeah.
and so now out there's a whole leak of like Insomniac's next up until 2030, their plans for future games, their financials, Sony's financials. It's very crazy. I think it's sad. I mean, just because I think we were talking about it a little bit before the podcast, but I think a bunch of issues are now going to come into play where people have expectations. And the thing is Insomniac, a lot of these ideas are just that. They're just ideas. None of them are concrete, because that's why they haven't announced it, is because they're still just spitballing.
Yeah.
And so I hope we don't, but I think there is a possibility that a lot of people can get expectations built up and then get disappointed or just get mad at Insomniac.
Yeah. Has Insomniac released a statement
I don't know.
on this specifically? Like,
Let me try and look.
I think I don't know. I don't really have a lot of respect for. I mean, it really is just criminal activity when people are like hacking like for those types of reasons.
Yep.
It's like there's gray area because a lot of hackers, it's important to have them, depending on what you're basically using your powers for, if you will. But half the time, it's just like there's nothing moral about this, of what these people are doing. Like they're just trying to blackmail for money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really all it is. So it's kind of hard to justify a hacker doing, like, every now and then a hacker will use some kind of like veil of I'm doing this as like an anti-hero type thing, but like that's
This is
hardly
a video game.
yeah, that's hardly ever the actual case.
Yeah.
Like you just wanted, like, it's like the GTA 6 hacker that they finally caught him. Like, have you seen this kid?
Oh, yes.
That's what they usually are like. It's just some random kid somewhere, like 17 years old, that has way too much time in their hands. Like,
Had a dumb idea and it somehow it worked. Yeah.
yeah. But that being said, it's kind of, now that the data's out there, I mean, it's kind of cool to see like where they're going, what their roadmap is. But if you're a fan of Insomniac, at this point, you take everything you see with a grain of salt. I mean, there could be course corrections. There could be all kinds of things that are going to happen now, especially after this.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to just, a lot of this was concept, So, like, it's very likely that, some of the stuff is already really close to being done, like Wolverine, that kind of thing. But like 2030, the games that they're talking, like, there's a possibility we might not even get an X-Men game.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Wolverine doesn't do good, therefore
that doesn't do good. Like, it's just, and then what Dylan said is like people are going to get expectations now and be mad at them for not releasing something. It's like, no, they never actually even announced this. They could do whatever they want. Like
100%. Like this, we're talking 7 years out. So there's been, any company worth their salt is going to have an internal roadmap of sort of where they want to go and the projects that they want to accomplish, right? From, a revenue standpoint. So, I think a lot of the leaks were sort of that, right? That at least that people cared about. It was like, okay, we're going to come out with these games, at this point or whatever. But who's to say that they don't have some massive hit that they, release in 2 years that all of a sudden they go, you know what, let's pivot and let's do a sequel,
or
and we'll just bump this timeline out, or maybe we'll just cancel this stuff. Like a lot of the leak stuff, like I feel like it shows you the inner workings of the company in terms of how they build concept art and stuff like that. And we were kind of looking at it before we jumped on here. It was kind of interesting to see how they kind of formulated everything. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was really kind of an interesting way of they would just take like real life photos of things that should kind of inspire them, or what they're trying to go for in terms of like a game vision, and kind of put that together in like a cohesive kind of PowerPoint presentation of this is, in this setting, I want to have this kind of look and feel to it. I want to have this look and feel to it. So it's kind of interesting to get like the behind the scenes,
Yeah.
But I don't think there's really any actionable information here that people need to start like building hype for stuff. Like at the end of the day, Kyle hit the nail on the head here. Like this was criminal activity. It was a leak. It wasn't anything to be announced. And I think the best thing, but we also have to remember that like Insomniac, I think you have to recognize it's out there. So now it's you can't, like GTA, I think, didn't they fight it for so long of trying to like not talk about it or suppress it or whatever? I think you've just got to steer into it and just be like, you know what, it's out. Make a couple jokes. Have your media team and your social media team just hit the nail on the head and be, make some jokes about it. I think the response to not give in to the ransomware is the perfect idea, and have fun with it. And then also have like some undertones of like setting expectations. Be like, hey guys, maybe you call together like like they do those fireside chats with like Diablo.
Yeah.
Maybe you do something like that with like the entire senior team there. I don't know who they are, if they even ever public face.
They do.
They do?
Yeah.
It'd be kind of interesting to sit down and be like, hey, have a couple of memes, have some fun with it, but then just kind of level set with everybody. Like, guys, let's have a moment here. This is very theoretical. Like that we are having these discussions and we're just trying to talk it out. So
they're probably, honestly, they've probably been in a meeting all day. And they're probably
100%.
still right as we're
what's
talking
the
about
damage?
this.
Damage control.
As we're talking about this, they're talking about it at the same time right now about what they're going to do, and they'll have a plan in place. I'm not worried about them as a company after this.
And I'll tell you right now too, all of this company's all of Insomniac's competitors are having meetings about this, because like at least in my industry, which I'm kind of actually tangentially involved in the gaming industry, when there's like a case of fraud or something like this happens, we have all hands on deck, sit down, we discuss what our plan would be if this was happening to us, and it's like a very real conversation. So I think the best thing for Insomniac to do is damage control, understand what happened, don't fight it, and then maybe just level set with everybody so that you don't let expectations spiral out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But have fun with it. I think they did the right thing by not giving into the ransomware.
So I have more information here about the actual ransom. So they requested, it was by hacking ransomware group Riceta. They requested 50 Bitcoin, roughly 2 million from Sony within 7 days. And Sony said, nah. And then I guess somebody from Cyber
Good on you.
Daily reached out to Riceta and learned the ransomware group specifically targeted Insomniac games. And they said, yes, we knew who we were attacking. And then Riceta, a spokesperson, told the publication over email that its motivation was just financial.
So they're not even trying to disguise it as anything but being dicks.
Yeah.
Why would it be anything other than that?
Usually these hackers will they'll spin a story, they'll spin a web of
Corporate greed.
corporate greed. We're teaching them that they're not above us, and capitalism must fall. They try and do some shit like that.
Meanwhile,
the
give us
people
50
that
Bitcoin.
the guy that hacked or the group that hacked CD Projekt Red after their disaster of a launch, they were like, we're doing this to teach them a lesson that they can't fuck us over anymore. We demand X amount of money. No.
Altruistic.
You are not fucking hacking CD Projekt Red as a virtuous you just found an opportunity to get public on your side and get some money out of them.
Yeah, what a joke. I don't know. I think also too, there was obviously a lot of data that was released, and this just came out today, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think everybody's had a chance to, well, not everybody, but whoever wants to go through it all and fully understand it. I don't know if any of their game source code has leaked, which that seems more damaging. But this all looks like more of the business operations side of the company than more of their creative teams, their art teams, and their actual development studios. So I don't even know how relevant some of this information is. I mean, when you're trying to build a roadmap out that far, and your team in particular might be tasked with, I think we saw one, right, where it was ideas for revenue generation and what they could target and stuff like that. I feel that team might have just been tasked with hey, come up with a couple different models, proposed models that we might be able to do, and let's talk about them.
Yeah, let's get the ideas going.
Exactly. It could have been how do we monetize? We know we want to create this game. How would we monetize it? Let's get a couple new creative ideas other than the standard model. And it could have been something as innocent as that. And some of the images we were looking at, there was it was clearly an active piece that they were working through and drawing X's through and stuff. So it's these companies they're trying to make decisions. You should not. I know people are, but I hope people aren't just oh God, Venom, 2027, it's coming, or whatever the other games that people are already foaming at the mouth for it. And it's like, let's slow down.
I've been
here.
waiting
It's
forever
so-
for X-Men.
They're gonna do this game and the next game, and you said it. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
this doesn't come out, I will kill myself.
Oh my God, frauds! Yeah, it's like, okay, all right,
So-
let's just slow down.
Looking, Billy, I think a PC build of Wolverine was released.
That's tough.
See, look at this here. So I don't. This. Oh man, you're stupid.
Oh man.
See, that's tough because
So I mean, that's when you click on it, it says internal PC build, and that's the only image there, and that looks like a file.
so that's similar to what happened with GTA 6, right?
No.
GTA 6 had like their full build, I think, leaked. Was it? It was actually the source code and stuff because I think you could see it running on. Like it was like a footage of like someone live, like a developer live testing it, and he was seeing. Like,
Yeah,
what
and
scripts
remember
were
it looked
running.
like shit, and everyone was just like, "Wow, the game looks like shit." And I'm like, "What the? It's not even close to out yet. Why are you thinking this is what it's gonna look like?"
Anybody who says that has no idea about like the process of game development. You design it with the art and like the style and the feel of the game like last.
There was this
You have to get your
YouTuber.
mechanics and everything first.
There's this YouTuber I was watching like react to the GTA 6 trailer, and he was like, "Wow, this looks so much better than the leaks." And he's like, "I'm surprised." Like, are you
Dude.
serious right
My God.
now? Like,
My God. No, you're proof of concepting. You're building out like interesting interactions, and then what you do is you just update the art as you go along. Like as it gets closer to the end, because that stuff just adds compiling overhead when you're trying to like do render or test things. It just adds overhead, computational, and time is money. You don't need it. Doesn't need to be there. So yeah, that sucks if they did like leak some of their source code, because that to me is like all this investor presentation bullshit. Like that's just noise to me. Like that's garbage data that any company you could just kind of assume a lot of this stuff that you see on there.
yeah.
They did have some interesting formulas on terms of like how they captured subscriber data and stuff like that, and the value of each subscriber. And I thought that was kind of interesting, but the source code, that's like to me, that's like actual just straight up theft, because that's intellectual property.
And that's their product, their main product.
100%.
Yeah.
And so like and I think with GTA, I think they were really bummed out because there was a lot of source code on the screen. And so now in reality, like, are people going to be able to take that and rip it and like just plug it in? Like the people who are there's not that many people. Like, how many people do you think are actually developing games? Like in the whole world in totality?
More than 5.
50,000 people? 100,000 people?
At least.
100,000 people?
Yeah.
I think that's probably like actually people who could take that information and leverage it in a
Or
studio.
especially that do it as a living too.
Yeah, good point. A lot of indie developers maybe don't count.
Yeah,
on
they don't
this.
make money. They just like,
So like, let's say 100,000 people. Maybe it's more. Maybe it's way more than that, and I'm just way wrong. But like, I just don't see people watching that leak and going, "Oh, that's the exact script that I've been waiting for. I need to have that." Like, maybe it could inspire you and you could learn, but like, man, there's a lot of inspiration out there.
And even then, it's like kind of where you were going to is out of everybody, who's the actual percentage of people that would be able to use that PC build?
Yeah.
Like to
right.
go in there and know what to do with it, or even want to go do something with it.
And if you did rip it off, like, I think it would be like blatantly obvious that like
yeah.
it was
There's so much more that goes into a good quality game than just like
source code.
source code. Like, it sounds silly, but like, that's a huge part of it, but like, you need writers, you need good concepts, you need you can't just like get that and then make a game that's going to be just as successful as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And,
And maybe and that's actually kind of a good point, and maybe that's why GTA 6, I think people were really negative on that, is because and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys obviously have much more of diverse games that you've played, but I feel like GTA is just so far and away ahead of the rest of the competition when it comes to like their open world interaction system.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just better than any game that exists out there. And GTA 6 is probably going to blow people's minds for another 5-10 years until we get GTA 7, which I'm really looking forward to. No, I'm kidding.
No, Spider-Man meets GTA Online is what next.
Oh boy. Versus like a game like Wolverine where it's probably like a very formula, okay, this character can move, he's got this attack set, like, you know what I mean? There's not a lot of like stuff that's going to blow your mind from like a programming standpoint, like, oh my god, how did an engineer figure that out? Versus GTA 6, it's like, okay, that's really impressive.
Well, they've always said that GTA, the setting is as much a character as the characters in all the GTA games. So I guess it would make more sense for a company like that to like be like, damn,
Yeah.
But
And they have every right. I mean, even in this Wolverine case, even though the case I just pointed out, they have every right to go after the people that did this and hold them accountable. There's no
100%, yeah. But I'm saying you can have the source code, but there's only one, like there's only one Insomniac.
Yeah.
So like it takes more than just that to make a good game. If that makes
look
sense.
at all the Cyberpunk clones that
there's a million of them.
came out and never did
Got
anything.
anywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, because they don't have the heart and soul of CD Projekt Red.
Yeah. Well, I think you said it perfectly. Like a game is more than the sum of its source code.
Yeah.
It's how that world feels, and it's all the little things, other than just how it runs.
It takes a equally intelligent person to utilize that in a way that makes sense too.
True.
Like you can have the technology, but if you can't like conceptualize how that's supposed to work in this environment or whatever,
You could have every tool in the world, but if you don't know how to use them, what good is it?
So yes, it sucks that happened, and it shouldn't have happened, but I don't think that it's gonna ruin them.
It will be interesting to see whatever their response is, because I tried to look. I didn't see any public response from Insomniac.
They're
But
working on it probably.
They're definitely heads down.
How exactly
It's
they wanna
probably.
handle this.
I bet you, if it was like a publicly traded company, like or
I don't think
I
CD
don't know how to
Projekt
describe
Red
this.
has a parent company, so they had to release all their statements themselves.
yeah, so like
Whereas Insomniac has the backing of Sony.
Sony, yeah.
so that's a great example that I was trying to think of. So CD Projekt Red, that happens. Then they have like this ownership, like that they have to step in front of the problem, and like that's that. Insomniac, they might, like Sony might just be like, just swallow it. We're good. Just keep moving forward. They don't. I mean,
Sony's no stranger to hacks. They deal with it all the time.
they're just like, we'll post the tweet, like no anymore, and they just might move on because Insomniac doesn't.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
Stay
Insomniac
hard at
doesn't-
work. We're doing great, sweetie.
Insomniac doesn't really interface with the public. It's right because they're the development studio. They publish their
They
games
promote
through,
like they'll promote their games, but like they're not.
but like they're
Yeah.
they have these ideas. The ideas are the way that I mean, every company's probably different, but Sony comes in and says, "Hey, we want you to build this." They build that. Sony then helps guide that vision and then supports all their channels for sales. And like at the end of the day, it's basically Sony's responsibility to push and market and do all that stuff with the game itself. Insomniac is just really the ones that are developing it, right? Versus CD Projekt Red, they were everything. Sony is like, hey, you built this vision, like we'll handle the response. And I can see them just being like, stay in your lane. We'll deal with the response from this.
I do agree, but I also think Sony, the way in the past, they're very developer forward. Like Brian Intihar is the Insomniac Spider-Man games director, and then God of War had Corey Balrog, and they're not shy to have those people be the spokesperson for the game.
Yeah.
Like there's not a Sony rep that's out there talking about the game. No, it's the
Yeah.
game director.
Well, even the Sony reps, if it's like a Sony event,
Mm-hmm.
they'll bring them on to talk about it. They won't talk about it themselves. So like, I think that in this situation, it's very likely that Sony takes over for dealing with the fallout of this. Because I think promoting it is different than like damage control. So I can see a little bit of both on that.
I see. Okay.
Either way, whatever they plan on doing, if they're going to handle all of it themselves, they do have the backing of Sony.
Yeah.
Which is a very powerful company.
Sony's gonna send Shinobis after the hacker.
Yeah,
We've already ordered their
take them
assassination.
out. So I'm not too concerned with Sony. I don't even think Sony would give a shit as long as they keep making good games. What do they care? You
Yeah.
know, like it is what it is.
Well, I know. Did you have a couple more topics that you want to discuss? Because I've got a topic in my back pocket that I want to go through. It'll derail the rest of this episode.
Loki
so.
season 2.
Finally, have you watched it yet?
No.
Damn you.
No, I think we're good. I would just say that, if you want to go find the spoilers and the leaks, go look online. You can find them easily. Otherwise, if you care about that, avoid them because they are pretty big. And I mean, a lot of it's concept too, but
Save for the Wolverine stuff
yeah,
because that's already like almost done.
yeah.
but-
So and the Wolverine, like, there's full on like the script. There's parts of the script leak, so you could spoil the whole game. So I just say keep an eye out if that's important to you. You might want to avoid that kind of stuff for now because it's definitely out there.
Okay.
But otherwise, I'm
Kyle?
ready, Billy. Or
Ditto.
Any concluding thoughts? Okay, this is
Wrong.
This is removing us a little bit from the geek verse. Geek is like people who are into comics, right? And nerds are like book smart. Like
It changes depending on who you
Yeah.
ask. It doesn't matter.
okay, so the geek verse.
Geek, I always
Taking us-
assumed geek was a little bit more like this person is a dork because they're good at math and science, and
Oh, okay.
or is it the other way around? Nerd is like math.
That's
and
how I-
science,
that's how
and
I
geek is
interpret it.
like
geek, I
comic
always thought
books
was like
and-
computer.
Okay, like Geek Squad.
Geek Squad.
What's the
Okay.
what's the accepted definition? Maybe I think we're a little of both, but
Chat, what do you think we are? Are we
Geek.
geeks or nerds?
Oh, dude, we're definitely fucking both. Come on, we're all.
Are we girds
What?
or neeks?
geeks.
Welcome to the Gerd Herd. You're our Gerd Herd.
Geeks, according to WikiHow, geeks are fans of something while nerds are practitioners.
Okay, that's how I understood it. Like geeks are
Uh.
people like crazy about comics and stuff like that, and then nerds are like the engineers, like the logisticians, like the I don't know. But
Interesting.
it is.
I
it is
don't know.
interesting.
Maybe I've been misusing it this whole time.
What?
I'm glad we derailed to figure that out. That was important. I'm
Should
sure
we-
to
Hey,
what you
we're
were going to
setting
talk
the
about.
record.
Should we
straight.
change it to your podcast for all things geek,
Geek?
and nerd?
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, nerd! All right, oh, this is
They're talking about
this
math or
is
science.
geek. Get it out of here!
This isn't
This is
nerd
nasty. I'm not here for this. This content's terrible.
because we do tend to be a little more geek on this. This
100%.
this podcast than nerd. I
And we're
guess.
also narcissists because we stare at our logo on the wall right there.
yeah,
It's just such influence.
Looks nice.
funny.
Okay, so I wanted to bring this up actually last week, but our episode ran long.
Okay.
But I have
Oh, and
stepped.
look at that. We're out of time.
You're right. And where do
28
people find us, Dylan?
They can find out.
Like, I'll just give up.
I have stepped into a world that I did not know existed.
That was a hard sentence. to
It
get
really
through.
was. I'm like thinking 3 sentences ahead, and I'm like, get the words out, let it flow.
All right, what is this world?
got me on the edge of my seat.
The world of home automation.
Oh man.
All right.
And like the Internet of Things, and I have taken a nosedive off the deep end into this world, and I am like 0.1%. I'm like, I have dipped my pinky toe in this ocean. I haven't even began to swim, and it is that vast, and I had no idea this even existed. But before we dive into like the full nitty gritty of what I've been doing, what is your guys' thoughts and opinions on just automations in general, like in terms of your everyday life, and things like Alexa? I don't want to say the device name because it might trigger a bunch of stuff, or Google or Apple products and stuff that's connected to the internet that you can use your voice for, or triggers when you do certain actions.
It depends on what I'm doing. I mean, I'm all for automation if it makes like tasks easier, but more or less it's like I like when it makes like for instance, if I were to use like Siri, I like that.
He said it.
I know, I did.
4 phones just went off.
And they called my boss at work.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
No, I like using things like that when I'm like driving because I could be a hands-free device. I could have it search for music for me, and so that's when automation it makes life easier. I'm not a huge fan of like unnecessary. Like I can't really see myself using that outside of driving, outside of like so it makes sense in certain situations. But I haven't really found anything where it's made like my professional life easier. It just makes things more convenient.
Okay.
I like automation. I like innovating old processes. Like, I have the Nest thermostat, and I'm a big fan of that. And like the Ring doorbell is really cool. And I think the reason I bought those was not for automation as much as the other innovation. So I'm trying to think of something that I bought just because of the automation, and I don't know if I've ever bought anything just because.
Well, like, does it track your location so that it turns off? It's not running the AC when you're not home, but then right when you get home, it turns on the AC.
It can, but I don't have that setting on.
Yeah. I think a lot of people actually turn that off.
I have pets, so in the summertime they would die if we didn't have anything on.
What about like do you have like a Roomba or something that like vacuums or mops your floors automatically for you?
I have a Shark vacuum that it vacuums.
Do you have that set up like as an automatic timer, like when you leave the house it goes on, or does it
Yeah,
come
but
on
I
at
won't
3
lie to
a.m.?
you. We generally, for the most part, we just prefer to actually vacuum.
Because it doesn't do a good
It
job.
does a better job than.
See, okay, all right. I won't. Yeah,
I've yet to find a Roomba or like I watched demonstration. I did a lot of research when I bought this thing, and this was supposed to be the best thing they had on the market.
Really?
Yeah, and I haven't found anything that
Well, you do have a lot of
is
animals.
better than just a vacuum.
I do agree
Like-
that the like a traditional vacuum, if you're gonna hit it once, will absolutely outclass like a Roomba or
And I paid like
whatever
$750.
Oh wow! Do you have one that like self cleans and stuff?
Mhm.
Oh my god!
It
Wow.
self empties its
Wow.
thing and
Does it mop or just vacuum?
just vacuums, but it
Wow.
maps out the
Yeah.
house, and so it tells me exactly what path it's
Hmm.
taking, and it's really cool, but it doesn't do as good a job as just me vacuuming.
Hmm.
Like
Wow. So yeah, that's it. I would absolutely agree that like when it comes to those robot vacuums, when you vacuum the floor, if you're just doing it once, like a handheld, like a regular vacuum will outclass that. But I found that like if I run it at least every single day, it like gets to a rhythm to where it's like always maintaining. We used to have one, but it finally burnt out and then like a long time ago it burnt out, and I miss it a lot.
Because what would you say, Billy, is something you bought for automation's sake?
Okay, you want me to jump off that deep end?
Well, just for automation, not innovation.
Well, so part of this house came with a bunch of automation stuff that I've been kind of figuring out and playing with.
but that was just a
I didn't buy the
benefit
house
of buying the
because
house.
this.
Yeah.
My home assistant server that I just bought. So this is the deep end that I'm getting into this world of automations. But I don't think there's any device that I've looked for to like, oh, this is gonna make my life easier. Like I won't have to do that anymore. I think that's like all technology, right? Like it just kind of they're more tools than automations, right? Like, oh, this makes this easier, but it's not zero now, right? Like I have a smart garage door that I can like open from my phone. It's like, well, I still have to click a button on my phone to open it
Yeah.
versus the clicker, you know what I mean? So there's pros and cons there. But let me introduce you to like what my vision is and what I've stepped into this world, because it's kind of I am learning so much right now. So, are you guys familiar with like open source software?
Yeah.
So, the second largest open source software project behind like Microsoft's Visual Studio is this Home Assistant program. It's absolutely massive, and I had not really ever heard of it. But essentially, it's like an operating system. It's like Windows, and I have now officially like bought a server, and I have flashed it an OS on this Home Assistant OS on this server, and now I run like a local server in my house to run and manage all of my automations. And I am just now, I don't have like that many devices, but I'm just now getting into like really kind of neat stuff. So I've been playing around with it, and it's all like you kind of have to like program it and control these devices. But I'm starting to see like the horizon of where I could take automations and make my life like kind of not much better,
It's
but cooler.
glorious.
Just kind of cooler. Just like
Yeah.
things that I would have to do that I don't necessarily have to do. So one, like I can set up automation. So I played around with this to where I have a Ring doorbell and it has a motion sensor on it. And when that motion sensor is triggered, I can turn on the porch light whenever that happens. And so like I can control all that through my server at my house. So it's not like it's going up to somebody else's cloud and trying to like reference the internet and then get pushed a command back down. Like no, I have all the computational power locally. So it's all within my house. And so like if the motion's detected, the porch light comes on. Or every night at like 12 o'clock, I have the entire house lock up. And then it sends me a report of everything is locked up. Or hey, this is not actually locked up. I have a vision. I just finished my backyard, right? I have this sprinkler controller. Well, I can integrate it with my Home Assistant, and the Home Assistant tracks weather data. So when it rains, I can have my sprinklers not actually turn on and save water that day.
Interesting.
And I can start to get into like all these cool automations. Right now, I hate my garage lights because when you open the garage door, it's so dark. But I can put a door sensor on that every time it's opened, I fire on my garage lights. And so like I'm starting to like kind of come up with these creative ideas of like, oh, that would be really cool if I could do this, if I could do that. And there's all these like the universe of devices that are like IoT, Internet of Things, is vast. Holy shit. And you go on YouTube, and there's like YouTubers with hundreds of thousands of views, like regularly on their YouTube channels talking about this stuff. You'll have like automations where people will set up like motion detectors. And like depending on where you are in the house, it'll like map out your routine. So like if you're sitting at your desk working in your office, it'll adjust the lighting depending on where the sun is outside, and so it'll like try to keep a certain amount of right now. Well, we're back.
Are we back?
But I saw another cool idea that this is not a cool idea. This is where people I think take it way too far, and it's just like
He started so strong. I saw another cool idea. This was not a cool idea.
Well, it's cool in the sense like that you can do this, but like they've put a humidity sensor above their coffee maker so that as it would like once it would finish with coffee and like the coffee was radiating moisture, it would then trigger an alert on Alexa to send a message to everybody in the house saying coffee's ready.
Oh my god.
And it's like oh, that's kind of neat, you could do that, but like, my god, have you taken it too far and stuff like that. But then I see people that like have cool like blind automations that, depending on like what time of day or if they're home or not, like the blinds will open up and they'll have natural light coming in, and then when it gets dark outside they close them up. And they'll, like, people have a bunch of different smart lights where they'll go from like warm to like daylight blue when it's like early morning sunlight and stuff, so it's a little more natural feeling and stuff. It is insane, this universe that I've sort of walked into, but I have all the hardware now to basically run this stuff, and now I'm like, ooh, I can do this now, I can do that now. And some of these ideas that I see people have are like hilariously like over spec'd. They're just like, why, like the coffee humidity thing. It's like, really? Are we seriously doing that?
The house is so big.
Yeah. It's like, holy shit. And then there's like some where, it sends there's so many that are just so useless. I'm like such a practical person. It's like, okay, is that actually going to add benefit? Am I going to buy all the devices to actually make that
You could
a
set up one
reality?
to where every time your house senses you're stressed, it calls your therapist.
There you go. Just live billing.
Can you imagine?
You could have your
Just dials out.
toilet listen to your bowel movements,
Uh-huh.
and if it's not regular,
It calls your doctor.
it calls your doctor.
I kind of like that idea, actually. I wish our
Just as you're on the toilet.
Totally side note, I wish our toilets were like constantly testing us for like, hey, you have a spike in protein, your kidneys are failing. Like, you should go and see.
Your kidneys are failing.
Like, hey, you have like a high level of sugar in your urine. Like, you might be diabetic.
Actually,
go get
I
tested.
believe they do make urine analysis, like toilets. Like, they're extremely like expensive.
I'm
or
sure
at least
they're
I saw
super reasonable.
concepts of them at one point. But the reason
We'll
I
see
brought
you
up
next
the,
year at CES when we go.
the reason I brought up the therapist thing is that actually wasn't Cyberpunk. So if you play as Corpo V, in the very beginning, like your therapist calls you, and it's like every member of Arasaka has these like therapists that are assigned to them. He's like, I detected elevated levels of your blood pressure or whatever, and he's like, oh, do you want to talk about that? And you could be like, shut the hell up, like to the therapist as you're flying to
Jesus.
but
Yeah. The company
Just
wants to
live.
keep your mental health in check.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, that's some...
I get it in certain aspects. Home automation or just automation, I like it, but I just get flashes of like Wall-E.
yeah, everyone's just,
They can't do anything themselves.
they don't have any bones anymore because they
Sound
don't
like
walk
old men.
anymore, and
You
they
sound like old men.
I'm just saying in certain aspects, like the coffee thing. That's
ridiculous.
stupid.
There was like one where the guy set up a vibration sensor on his like smart vacuum that would go out, so he could kick it and it would go and like, because he wanted to kick his vacuum, like he would kick it and it would go and vacuum, like because it would sense vibration and then would go and turn on.
that sounds weird.
Yes,
Get to work.
yeah.
Like,
But then there's like other stuff where it's like if you wanted to save on energy, where you could basically, like, if you had an EV, we don't really do this in the US, but I think in the EU, energy prices are different during the day. And so like, because you now have this like local server, you can monitor energy prices and then it'll activate that outlet smartly to where it's like, okay, energy is cheapest now, start charging the vehicle, and then turn off when the price spikes and stuff like that. There's like things you can kind of control there. It's definitely like a deep end, and I'm definitely super new to it. And I got on the hook because when I bought the house, I had like cool little features that were smart, and there's a whole
Door
story there.
unlocked.
Yeah, that I kind of missed, and now I have the ability to like control these locally on my terms, no subscription fees. I'm running my own server.
I'm all
I
for
love
automation when it comes to making things cheaper, making like things more energy efficient. If that kind of thing. But when it comes to automation for like just
In-home
everyday
stuff.
life, in-home stuff.
How much you saving?
Yeah, like it's not really a big deal to me. Like I
think they're
can't
always
see
quirky.
I can't see myself getting into this
No
culture
way.
very very hard. That like if I had a vehicle that, and they do make vehicles like this, but like you know an example of automation that I'm all for would be a vehicle that would know exactly how to use your like drive somewhere and how to use the least amount of gas possible to save money.
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of thing.
Or even just one that starts at a certain time in the morning.
yeah.
And it knows that it's a Tuesday at 8 a.m., so you're most likely going right to work. So it'll already pre-route with the GPS stuff, right? Like you do that on like Teslas and stuff. But I'm in kind of the exact. I feel like all the examples a lot of the examples I've seen are more like quirky, like aha, like look at how interesting this is. It's like more interesting. It's like a passionate side project that people have, and there's kind of cool stuff. There are some very actually practical stuff. So for that, I don't quite own yet, but I want to build into. So for instance, right, like the Ring. I don't want to pay for Ring's subscription service. I don't want to store my video files on there. And I plan on doing like full security cameras on the outside of the house at some point. So what I would like to do then is now that I have this local server, I could basically capture when there's motion detected on my Ring camera, it'll store that 30 seconds of footage and then transfer that file onto like my network attached, my NAS, and save that file there and then like do a purge of anything that's over 6 months old or something like that. And so that way I can save like any data that I wanted to on like any of my video feeds, and it'll handle all that like transfer of data automatically. There's stuff like that you can automate. The lights, like I was talking about, having it come on and on. Like before, my porch light was just on 100% of the time, but now I can kind of control it with the sunset. So there's like some efficiency gains, but I feel like everything, like 90% of it, is just pure quirkiness.
Yeah.
Stuff that I
Well,
would
even
never
think like,
use.
your phone. All phones now generally have the setting of brightness is adaptive.
Mm-hmm.
It changes based on like how bright it needs to be. So even things like, having that like on your TV or like, that like your monitor, your laptop, like that type of automation, like I can get behind. But like, I do think that, especially like the coffee thing or like getting to the point where you never have to get out of bed, it can get real crazy.
Well, people will connect their, their like sit stand desks to this stuff. So then it'll like every 30 minutes, it forces you to stand up and stuff. So it's like, instead of
Time to stand up.
yeah, it's like instead of trying to remember for it, it just forces you to stand up. So it's kind of, I think a lot of those are like quirky. And then there's stuff that might be real. Like you have like humidity sensor that will turn on a bathroom fan if somebody starts taking a shower.
And it's too much, yeah.
So
You're
you get the
gonna say start
moisture
taking
out.
a shit.
or that.
It smells so bad.
So
in here.
bad
It
that you
turns
turn
on
that
the-
fan, like a sniffer. Like somehow I can test air
Detect
quality.
methane gas.
yeah, like it knows.
But there's like I just was learning about like my furnace, and I have a float sensor in my secondary condensation drain line in there that basically floats and it'll turn off. It'll cut the power to my thermostat, and that's how I'll know something's wrong with it. But like you can make that an IoT device where basically if that occurs, you can then know exactly what the problem is other than just cutting the power to your thermostat and just saying, well, you're fucked. You could know like, oh, hey, I have a drain issue. Like my condensation line is overflowing. So I'm kind of in this weird world of like, I'm like a very practical guy. I love the idea of being able to, if it's raining or a cloudy day, maybe I run my sprinklers for 50% of the time and save on some water, right? I love like those kinds of efficiency gains just from like an earthling using less resources. That's like a good thing. But there's just like
the way you said it, like
but I'm also not going to be the guy that like, all right, when I leave my house, I need to have 6 notifications triggered. I want all the lights turned off, and then the garage needs to close 3/4 of the way, and all this ridiculous, like, no, let's not.
Do you guys remember the movie Smart House?
yeah.
Oh, from the 90s.
Yeah. At what point do we get that
I think
At
that
what point do we
comes-
lose who we are?
as humans?
I feel like that comes right when we have like something that has opposable thumbs and can learn. I can't wait for a robot that can just cook dinner. That I could be like, hey, chop these vegetables, like follow this recipe online. The instructions are right there.
You
and it can
stupid robot.
figure it out. Okay.
But yes, master,
Sorry, master.
But like that would
don't
Dude.
make me get.
that's how you solve health issues in America. Is you have a fucking robot
That
cooking your health
forces you
dinner.
to eat healthy.
Seriously, if you imagine, do you know how many times people just eat out because like eat shitty fast food? You know, not that like we ever do that or anything, but
Not us.
but
Never.
like because they don't have the time to cook. Like that you always hear like I love cooking, but I don't have the time.
Yeah.
Well, now you don't. Now you can be like, hey, here's the recipes I want to make this week.
Get to work, robot.
You know, make them or whatever.
Are we
And it
automating
would
our
just make 'em.
lives? Or are we fast forwarding our demise?
Hey man.
I think it's cool though. I think it's cool, Billy. It's almost like you're turning your house into a computer with
Yeah.
if then.
And yeah, exactly. If then statements essentially is what I'm doing. And
My
it's
house
like a
is
fun
going to
little
be a
passion project.
flip phone while everyone else is rocking the.
Hey man.
Well, I
It's
think-
totally acceptable.
Like-
but I'm having fun with it.
You know what would be a good idea?
Hit me.
Learn all about this stuff. Start a business. Installing that for rich a-holes.
Yeah.
So I had heard about this years ago because my
Dang, it's
old
too late.
boss had
over.
this.
Too late.
So he had it set up where his whole hallways, if you got up in the middle of the night to take a piss, motion sensors would kick on and they would kick on these special lights at the base of his house.
you-
Like an
So
airplane.
exactly. So it would light up.
So it didn't blind you, but you could also see where
So
you're.
it was lit up just enough to where it wouldn't wake you. Like it was specially like the way he pitched it was like he sold it, but it was like this special frequency
Yes,
where
yeah.
it
IP on
didn't like deplete melatonin levels in your body because
Oh,
it was
he
like
did his
the
full
color.
sleep and
Yeah,
so he's like,
exactly.
you know what I'm
So, like-
tired of? Waking up and having
and-
to go pee and
you
then I'm
can't fall
awake.
asleep.
I
Yep.
need to research and invest millions.
He built his house around, and this is back in like 04, so he was ahead of the curve. This was like, yeah, but he has all like Sonos's stuff for smart speakers, and like it was actually kind of an interesting, cool house. It was really like a thoughtful build, and but he had like all these little quirky features, and so these like people definitely love to manage it. But the thing is, same thing. He had like a home server that he ran all these computations on. And he himself was not a very technical person, he and his wife. And so he was constantly calling out service people to come like fix random shit that wasn't working. And it
See,
was like,
so we need to
okay,
get into the
You know,
business.
when I wake up
do.
in the middle of the night,
I like the Wii.
when I wake up in
Be
the middle of the night, my vision is usually good enough to where I could just leave the lights off.
You're a young man.
I guess
You don't have millions of
You
dollars
don't know what
to
you're
waste.
talking about.
that's true.
I'd question the waste.
That's so true, Dylan. I'm not a millionaire. God
Me neither.
damn it.
I was actually talking with one of my developers from work, and he was like, he said the exact same thing. He's like, "You need to start a business." I'm like, I know nothing about this. Like, I'm barely like learning. But he's like, you need to figure this out, and then like, you could sell these services. And I'm like, how would that look? Like, I'm gonna go around installing like smart outlets and
Yeah.
and light switches, and then
Call
run
it-
like a server in their house, and
Instead
then
of Geek
You know-
Squad, call it Nerd Squad.
No, I was gonna say Gerd Herd.
Gerd Herd.
Geek nerd.
there you go.
Herd.
I like it.
Do people know what Gerd?
GERD sounds like a fucking
It's
gut
a-
disease.
okay.
Gerd sounds like I'm thinking of like some type of mold, like moldy yogurt.
What about the Katie ratio?
Yeah. What's the service that install all this for you? Oh, they're called the Katie ratio. Like what?
Yes, acid flows back to the tube connecting your mouth and stomach. GERD is acid
Gastro-
reflux.
Esophageal
Acid reflux, herd.
disease.
Boy, let's not name a business
But-
after that.
I do think that would be a good business, and I think
More
you
and
get
more
paid a lot.
appropriate.
I bet you there's
Especially
a lot of people that think that
in
as
an
well.
area where we are. There's a certain little lake.
They call us the little Silicon Valley.
Yeah,
The little
No,
big lake.
but yeah, that lake.
There's a lot of interested clientele.
Yeah, that just barely live.
But
there.
how do you like sell them an automation? Like, I can turn on your porch light automatically at night. Like, they're not like, or I can every time you walk into this room, these lights will kick on. You know, like you have to
have to be good
understand
at-
their life.
You either have to
then
be
customize
very
it
good
to them.
at being a door-to-door salesman, or you have to be extremely good at social media.
Do you guys need any home automation? No? Okay, bye. Do you guys need any home
100%.
I'm not fucking knocking. You can have a website and market it and be reasonable. You have to door to door.
Oh no,
Uh,
you underestimate the power of door-to-door sales.
apparently. Apparently.
Why do you think people still do it? Because it works. I wouldn't want to do it.
I
That
would
sounds like a
absolutely
nightmare.
not want to fucking knock on doors.
Well, then
Maybe
you
I
have,
have an idea here.
then
Maybe
you have to
there's
be
something
good at
here.
social media.
I'm a rock star at
none of us
social
are.
media.
Clearly, we are.
I tweet once a month.
How do we not have millions of followers?
But when you think about like all the open source tools that we've used, this is the second most project, and you guys have never even heard of Home Assistant, right? Have you?
No.
It's
Yes.
It's just it's,
No.
It is like a. I love this about like the internet because you can. It's a portal, and you walk through it, and you're like, holy fuck, what is this?
Where am
And you don't even know where to start, and you just kind of like. You get caught up in it, and you're like, "Oh, this is really interesting." And now I've got like a couple things built. I'll show you guys after this. I got like a whole dashboard where I can control my thermostat and like all the basic stuff.
I'm
that
not
you can have.
interested at all. Please don't show me.
How fucking dare you be passionate about something? You piece of shit.
I ooze passion about like everything, and then in 2 months I'll be like, oh yeah, that
You
home
know-
assistant thing I was in.
Oh yeah, did you guys listen to
You guys
R.L.
remember
Grimes?
that? Yeah. This fucking guy.
So this doesn't have anything to do with automation, but I found it very interesting, this person's business model on YouTube. He's a landscaper, and he has a YouTube channel with like somewhere like 2.5 million subscribers, and he doesn't charge his clients anything. He makes money solely off of his YouTube channel.
What's the name of that one? Like GB
I forget the name.
something. I know which one you're
But
talking about.
he doesn't charge them anything, but he has so much viewers that he can do that work for free. And people love to watch him landscape.
I've
And
watched
so
40-minute videos of him just
it's such
shoveling
an
sod.
it's such an odd business model that he does this for free and he makes money completely off of the YouTube videos.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like playing on that, the power washing. Like some people get a lot of satisfaction out of watching something get cleaned. And
Yeah,
so,
and it's kind of like ASMR,
Yeah.
maybe a little. But I feel like if we were to sell this to somebody, I think at a basic there is like cool stuff you could have. Like you can make all the light switches in the house like a smart device to where you basically from the power of their phone or like a tablet, they could turn off all the lights on the house, right? From like one button, boom, I'm going to bed, turn off all the lights, and it kills all the lights. So like I feel like there's basic things that would be like people would be like, "Oh, I would love that." I'm old and my back hurts and I don't want to walk 1,000 square feet, over there to click that light switch. I'd like to hit a button.
Button.
Like, all right, cool.
Easy enough.
And then it's like, I want a sex button. And you hit it and it's like all the lights dim. And your
It
favorite
starts
song
playing
comes
music. It's that version though. It's you humming.
on.
So we couldn't
Like
afford
a
the rights.
shitty knockoff.
We don't have the copyright for this song.
I never connected it to your Spotify, so I'm so sorry.
You're saying that in the audio for this song?
I was only able to pre-record like 1,000 songs. That's all you got.
1,000?
Shitty knockoffs of just me singing into a song
I spent weeks recording all of these a cappella, just me.
for only $5 a month. You could have my catalog. I would market to old people and disabled people. Oh, great point. Like if they forgot to turn off and they leave that. Yeah. So that's a great point. They actually have, just like I said, they have motion detection stuff. They have fall detection sensors that you can install, and it will alert you when it detects somebody that may have fallen.
Fell.
Fell.
Fell?
Life alert.
Thank you. No, it's not even like life alert. It's like literally a sensor you could have on a shelf.
Is it like an earthquake detector?
Their head dropped out of camera view.
I have no idea how it works. I have no idea.
I've been tracking them, and they were gone.
And all of a sudden they fell.
There's no movement, and they're on the floor. It's like an actual guy just watching a camera, like, oh, fucking this old lady fell. Fine, I've been watching her for 100,000 hours. Finally, fucking fell. All right, grandma's down. Grandma's down.
There's some guy in the chair watching like hundreds of houses.
That'd be the dumbest thing.
What a terrible job that would be. That'd be the worst.
But I do think it would be a good job idea.
Maybe.
Because I bet you'd make a lot of money. I'm sure there's people out there that
Think my personality's good enough?
Oh yeah.
In order to be successful in anything, you have to be really, really good at it.
Confident.
Yeah, so get good at it.
So,
Or just feel
I'll
confident about
do
it.
the
You
door
could
to
do
door.
shitty work.
Since you guys don't want to, I'll do the
how
door
do you
to
know
door
my
salesman.
career?
Door to door.
I'll
I
do
like
it. If you get good at it, Kyle can be in charge of.
Getting 10% without doing anything.
Head of
Yes.
janitorial.
Janitorial service.
My brother will be forever in shambles.
I'm not a whiz on
So,
any of
second,
the technical aspects.
door-to-door
of it.
salesman.
So you'll get 2 door-to-door salesmen, and then when they ask us how do we install it, you're not there. So we just say, "Trust us, we know a guy."
We got this.
We'll have one of our technicians come down and take a look at it. Okay.
And what we could do is we could build a whole model and then have a subscription service to where, like, if they ever wanted to add automations, they can call us. We could do it, or we can help manage their home if anything goes wrong.
Just saying.
I'll manage the OnlyFans. Just do it naked. Just
Hi, this is Z-Wave device. Don't mind my penis, but
As you can
this
see,
is
we
a
install
smart
it.
life.
like so. And then
When you
and then
click
we'll,
here,
we'll have the same model as that landscaper. You know, we won't charge the clients. We'll just make money off of the OnlyFans.
people get an entire home full of smart tech, and we didn't charge them anything. It's like we're only doing it to rich communities.
We don't
The
charge.
people who don't
We don't charge them anything because we think we're gonna make so
like
much
18
money.
views. Cost us $5
And
grand.
then you're like,
in
I
devices.
monetized this and I made 35 cents. I just bought $10,000 worth of equipment for this house.
That's
And they
a hell
could
of
have
a video
afforded
title.
it. They offered me $20,000.
I hurt myself today.
I took out a second on my home for this.
I just don't even know how that would like. Yeah. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
There's so much more to running a business than just the product as well, though, too. So, like, there'd be a
almost
lot
would,
of
like-
hurdles and challenges.
I
to
feel like
this.
almost most of the fee, like incursion to a client, would be the consulting side of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you want? What would you need? And then you could sell that, and then you do the install.
You'd have to calculate how much, like, what is your time worth?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Labor
and how is
versus
that
parts.
fair for the customer, and how are you going to do this? And you wouldn't be able to charge that much at first until you grew, and then you'd be able to charge more and more as you became more prominent. And like, there's a lot that would go into it. I mean, you have quite a history with, like, you know, finance and then like tech and
Yeah,
all
the
that.
whole business side
yeah.
of it that's a whole other ball game. Yeah.
So it's not just a matter of just being good at it too, I guess. It's a matter of like running a business.
I'm a
But
CEO.
definitely possible.
Read it on my title. CEO.
That's why you need to buy my product.
Entrepreneur.
I'm going to automate the shit out of this place.
Remember when people used to say, I'm the backbone of this economy? Like, nobody ever says that shit anymore. That's like a dead line. I felt like I heard that all the time in like movies,
My family,
pop culture.
which
Never
built
hear that.
this town, by the way.
That's so cringy, man.
Yeah.
I still see that shit when like people get pulled over by like a cop, and there'll be like some cop footage. Be like, do you know who I am? I run this town, or I run this county. And you're like, did you
Billy,
actually just actually say that and mean it?
working in banking, I hear, do you know who I am?
Oh,
At least twice a day.
Oh God.
At least twice a day.
Yeah, you the guy that got a Dum Dum sucker last time. Did you want another? Do you want the raspberry flavor this time?
Do you know who I am?
What the fuck does that like?
I would never pull that, no matter how
No.
powerful I became. I would never
I could be
pull that.
fucking Barack Obama. I'm not saying, do you know who I am?
Oh shit! It's William
It's William
of the
Obama.
Katie ratio.
William Obama.
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I'll do anything if you just don't.
I tell people that on a daily basis. I go get a bagel. They charge me full price, and I'm like, you know who I am?
Do you know who I am?
You know who I am?
Do you know who I am?
You get an accent all of a sudden.
I work.
Yeah, you're like it's like at the very end of an interaction. Like, wait. Do you know who I am?
Like you didn't talk like with a New York accent this whole time.
No. Yeah. Giorgio, come over here. This motherfucker, he don't know who I am. You tell him.
There's nobody
this
named
is-
Giorgio.
Nobody comes
This is
over.
crazy.
You're just talking to yourself. It's like like a parrot on your shoulder. Like, Giorgio. They don't know who they
You
are.
take off one hat, put on another.
I'm a Giorgio.
I'm a Giorgio.
Hey, I heard you were talking to my boss.
I heard you don't know who he is. It's like totally different vibe. Like
Happy-go-lucky.
it's me, Mario.
Me a Giorgio.
Wahoo!
Subtle hints of racism.
Get thrown in a mental asylum after one interaction trying to pull the do you know who I am?
We got him. He's going down.
Oh. This is how off the walls we used to get on our podcasts. What
I
happened?
think
miss it?
we still do.
I feel like
If
we're
anything, we're worse.
I feel like
now.
I would agree with that.
I don't know.
We used to have an agenda with topics and not even topics, but like we would have,
Segments.
games,
We
and
spent-
segments. Yeah, thank you.
I know, but can we? I mean, we once spent like 20 minutes debating on how we would like have sex with King Kong.
Do you remember that?
We did. It was during the Marry Fuck Kill.
Yeah, and that I remember you were even reenacting like all the hair you would have to
You're
chop
like,
through to get to.
I'm coming for you, King.
So that's how it used to. So I think we're a little bit more contained now than we used to be.
should we bring one back?
I
for
feel
old
like
times'
we
sake?
have to maybe go back one episode to find something equally as like cringe.
As absurd. What did we talk about last episode? I feel like it was pretty straightforward.
But it was like 2 episodes ago when we were unhinged, when we did the shot of absinthe before.
I thought that wasn't unhinged. It was a little loose, a little fun, but we didn't go crazy.
We did hot ones.
That was just us whining.
I cried on camera.
Milk.
Milk.
We made a music video.
That will never see the light of day.
I've already spread it to the internet. Kyle.
Nice.
I'm kidding.
Sweet.
Raw growth.
Rock. Enormous growth.
Girthy growth.
Are these sound bites? Or
What's going on?
We're growing.
we're raw dogging growth?
We're a grower, not a shower. Huh.
Yeah, definitely not. We started small. And now we're growing into our own.
We're growing into our own.
We're making our dads proud.
I think all 3 of our fathers would be a little put off if they
Heard this conversation.
My dad's filing paperwork right now to take me out of the will.
emancipating you from.
Can you emancipate a grown ass man? This fucking. My son's 30.
I don't want him to be a part of my good family name anymore.
Like, sir, you can't do that after 18. What a weird. I think emancipation, the idea of like signing yourself out of your family, like that's wild. Declaring that you're independent of. I don't think that happens like in today's world that much.
Oh, I think it does.
Yeah, I
I
actually
think it happens a lot.
I
Yeah.
worked with someone that did that, and it was they were like 25 when they told me, but they got emancipated when they were like 16 or something like that. But there has to be very specific things in place for it to
Yeah.
happen. Like usually it's like a case of abuse, neglect, or something like that.
Or they just need their own signing power, to...
That or even they do it a lot in small towns. Like,
Oh, makes sense.
yeah, like there's
Right.
like 14-year-olds that can get like driver's licenses because they can,
Like
depending on where they
you
live.
can't get your
and-
family out of the house, whatever, because some illness or whatever, and so you need to, set up a bank account. And usually you need your parent to do that. You can't have them there physically. So I see it. I see it.
I see it.
don't.
Insomniac, good on you for not turning into that ransomware. 2 million, 50 Bitcoin. It's kind of crazy that 50 Bitcoin is 2 million. I don't really understand how that thing is priced, but
I don't think anyone really does. They just pretend they do.
And they want money.
literally, I've spent, I'm not even exaggerating, hundreds of hours trying to understand that and NFTs, cryptocurrency markets, different crypto exchanges. The exchanges there's the validity to exchanges for sure. You just clip a fee every time there's an exchange that happens. So I get that, and then they just have to validate the transaction. Sure, but like the coin itself, I don't know.
It's like that quote from Wolf of Wall Street. There's like rule number 1: no one really knows what's actually going to happen, and he's like, it doesn't matter as long as you get their money in your pocket.
Well, the scary thing is too, like especially in 2008, but even still today, things are modeled to like a 5 standard deviation. So, is it? Yeah, it's like 5 standard deviations. So basically, it's like 99%.
Billy, we need your finance voice if you're going to talk about finances.
Well, you see, there's like it's modeled at like a 5 standard deviation. So like, when you look at that and you're only looking at the one side of the curve, you look at that side of the curve, and what you're left with is really just like a 1% probability of something actually occurring. So when you extrapolate that 99 times out of 100, that thing doesn't actually occur. But in the one case, 2008, that actually occurred.
Obviously.
Clearly. And so that event was not accurately modeled by models. And big boom, bad, no good. And here we are.
You're like,
You're slowly deviating
you're like
the voice.
you're de-evolving too. Like,
I had no idea. I was more so focused on the content. Big boom, bad.
like
Went from a nerd to like boom,
caveman.
investments bad. Obviously.
I can't wait for the AI that writes the descriptions for our episodes to decipher.
That.
Speaking of automation, I mean,
Hey, there you go. That's one
Yeah.
we use.
Yeah?
we use that.
It's kind of cool. It's better than what we could do.
Sometimes it's a little too much, but I'm
Impressive.
okay.
Let's, what is it? Let's plug in the consoles, press play.
So let's hook up the consoles and press play. God. We got to go over last week's description. It's pretty good too.
Nice.
Well, Dylan, where can people find us?
They can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, any major podcast listening platform under KD Ratio Podcast, where your place for all things nerdy or geeky, as we discussed, probably more geeky than nerdy.
Your
But
place for all things geek doesn't flow as well.
GERD,
Do not say GERD.
all things GERD.
Acid reflux.
But yeah, come check us out. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and come join us during our live stream Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
Ooh. And with that, remember, with a good KD, you get the dub.
Bye.